They told us the Bismarck was a grave, a silent cathedral of twisted steel, resting 3 miles beneath the Atlantic in water so black and so cold that nothing survives. For 80 years, we believed we knew everything about her final resting place. We mapped her shattered gun turrets. We photographed her debris fields. We counted the rivets on her broken hull. We were wrong. In 2024, a state-of-the-art submarine drone discovered something that should not exist. A sealed chamber, buried deep within the ship's armored heart. A chamber that was never supposed to be found. But here is what made every scientist in that control room go silent. The chamber was not cold. It was warm. It was emitting a signal. And it had been locked from the inside since 1941. What is hiding behind those rusted walls? A forgotten experiment? A distress beacon still crying for help after 8 decades? Or something far more disturbing that defies every law of physics we thought we understood? This is the story of a discovery that rewrote history. And by the end, you will understand why some researchers believe we should never have found it at all. Into the abyss. The Atlantic Ocean is not just deep. It is a realm of absolute crushing finality. Once you descend past a certain point, the world of the living simply vanishes. Sunlight fades into twilight blue, then into an oppressive, suffocating darkness that has remained unchanged for millions of years. This is where the Bismarck lies, 3 miles down, 16,400 feet beneath the surface. To understand what that means, imagine stacking Mount Blanc on top of itself. At that depth, the pressure exceeds 6,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a standard submarine like a soda can in a fraction of a second. For decades, humans could only glimpse this wreck through the tiny portholes of manned submersibles or grainy footage from primitive, remotely operated vehicles. But 2024 brought something different. Researchers deployed the Prometheus-10, a Hadal-class submarine drone engineered for one purpose: to go where human beings physically cannot survive. This machine was a marvel of engineering. Titanium reinforced, equipped with multispectral scanners and thermal imaging arrays, capable of making split-second decisions in pitch-black conditions while withstanding pressures that would pulverize lesser vessels. When the team lowered it into the water, the mood was electric but tense. They expected a routine survey, new damage assessments, perhaps some details for the historical record. Nobody expected the history books to be torn apart that day. As Prometheus-10 descended, the telemetry monitors glowed with familiar data: depth increasing, temperature dropping. By the time the drone reached bottom, the water should have registered barely above freezing, a flat line of cold death. That is how the deep ocean works. Everything down there exists in a state of frozen timelessness. Then the thermal alarm started blinking. The heat that should not exist. At first, the lead technician thought it was a glitch. He tapped the screens. He rebooted the sensor arrays. He assumed the drone was malfunctioning, but the data held firm as Prometheus-10 glided over the port side of the hull, scanning the massive armor belt that once protected the ship from British torpedoes. The sensors detected something impossible: a thermal spike. Faint at first, barely a fraction of a degree warmer than the surrounding abyss. But in the deep ocean, that fraction of a degree is a screaming alarm. Metal that has been sitting in freezing water for 80 years does not generate heat. It physically cannot. The drone moved closer. Its thrusters kicked up small clouds of silt that had settled decades ago, disturbed for the first time since the ship's violent death. The camera focused on a section of hull that had always been overlooked. A 320-millimeter thick armored wall, part of the citadel that had remained sealed through the sinking and the catastrophic impact with the seafloor. The heat was radiating from behind that wall. Scientists immediately scrambled for explanations. Perhaps the metals were breaking down in some exotic exothermic reaction, a slow rust fire burning in the absence of oxygen. But the chemistry did not add up. The reaction was too steady, too localized. It was concentrated directly behind a specific reinforced bulkhead, almost as if something inside was still running. Then the drone's cameras revealed something that changed everything. The steel plates around the heat source were not just rusted, they were warped, bent outward slightly, as if something inside was pushing against them. As if the pressure inside that room was different from the crushing weight of the ocean outside. This chamber was not dead. It was maintaining its own environment, fighting back against the abyss, and it had been doing so for 80 years. Substance that defied explanation. The drone hovered inches from the warped plating. Its lights cut through the eternal darkness, illuminating scars on the battleship's wounded hide. But the researchers were no longer looking at rust. They were looking at something that had no business being 3 miles underwater. Around the seams of the sealed plating, oozing from microscopic cracks in the armor, was a thin, oily film, transparent, shimmering, almost gelatinous. In the deep ocean, you expect biological growth. Rusticles, algae, coral, silt. You do not expect clear, viscous slime that looks like industrial lubricant. When the sample reached the surface, the analysis shattered every assumption. Under the microscope, the substance was clean. It had no cellular structure. It was not bacterial, not fungal, not hydrothermal discharge. It was synthetic. The chemical breakdown revealed a polymer-like structure rich in silicone and lithium compounds. This result baffled the laboratory. Silicone. Polymers of this grade did not exist in 1941. This material looked like a decay-stabilized energy gel, something you might find in modern aerospace damping systems or nuclear cooling arrays. When placed in a vacuum chamber to simulate deep ocean pressure, it did not freeze or shatter. It thickened. It became more durable. A smart fluid that strengthened under stress. How could a battleship built in the late 1930s possess technology that behaves like something from our century? The presence of lithium was the smoking gun. Lithium is a key component in high-density energy storage. Finding it in a liquid suspension leaking from a warm room suggested that whatever was inside was leaking battery fluid. Not the acid kind we know. Something far more advanced. Something that was still chemically active after 8 decades. The signal from the dead sound travels beautifully underwater. Whales communicate across entire oceans. Submarines detect propellers from miles away. But the deep ocean is usually a place of natural chaos, tectonic groaning, currents shifting, wrecks settling in the mud. What Prometheus 10 detected was not chaos. The drone's acoustic sensors were running a standard passive sweep when the audio visualizer spiked. A sharp, rhythmic ping cut through the static. It bounced off the inner wall of the sealed chamber and echoed into the water. 3 short pulses, 3 long pulses, 3 short pulses. Silence. Then, exactly 62 seconds later, it repeated. Everyone in that control room knew what the pattern meant. You learn it as a child. You see it in films. It is the universal cry for help. SOS. But sunken battleships do not send Morse code. The Bismarck's electrical systems were destroyed by shellfire and seawater before she even slipped beneath the waves. There should be no power, no signal, no voice. Yet there it was, precise to the millisecond, mechanical, automated. The signal repeated 4 times over 6 minutes. Then it stopped. The silence that followed felt heavy, oppressive, as if the ship had spoken and then returned to sleep. Some researchers believe the drone accidentally triggered an acoustic-activated emergency beacon, a system designed to lie dormant until a specific frequency woke it from hibernation. A last-ditch distress protocol that had been waiting, patient and silent, for someone to come looking. But if a machine was still running inside, protected by that strange gel and generating heat, what was it guarding? The 32 ghosts. History remembers the Bismarck's crew. Over 2,200 men went into the water. Only 114 survived. Every sailor, cook, and mechanic was accounted for in meticulous naval records. Or so we thought. A German historian named Clara Hennis recently discovered a discrepancy buried in forgotten files. 32 names appeared on provision logs, men issued bunks, rations, and security clearances who never appeared on the official naval roster. Their employment records traced back to civilian contractors, Siemens, Lorenz, Telefunken, the giants of German technology. Why would 32 civilian engineers be aboard a battleship sailing into combat? And why were their names erased from every casualty report? A single internal memo from February 1941 referenced a special detachment assigned to a classified compartment. They were to operate under total blackout protocol, bypassing the captain entirely, reporting only to Berlin. A ship within a ship, a secret crew, guarding technology so sensitive that even the Bismarck's commander may never have seen it. The sealed chamber the drone found sits exactly where that compartment should be, deep in the citadel, armored, independent, and according to the scans, locked from the inside. Someone sealed that door, and if they sealed it, they may have left something behind. The question we cannot answer. 80 years beneath the crushing darkness of the Atlantic, something inside the Bismarck refuses to die. A warm room, a synthetic fluid that defies its era, a signal still crying for help, and 32 names erased from history. We have the technology to open that chamber. We have the drones, the tools, the ambition. But should we? Some secrets guard themselves for a reason. Some doors remain closed because the men who sealed them understood what opening them would mean. The Bismarck was supposed to be a grave, a monument to the fallen, a closed chapter in the darkest war humanity ever fought. Instead, she may be a vault. And whatever is inside has been waiting a very long time to be found. The question is not whether we can reach it. The question is whether we are ready for what we will find.